In the quiet silver breath of dawn, Sheikh Hamdan walks alone, his heart whispering a name the world will never hear. The desert is wide, the sky endless, yet he feels the pull of one memory, one voice, one woman who shaped his soul. His footsteps fall softly on the palace marble, but inside him storms rage with a beauty only he understands. He hides it well, the smile he gives to the world, the strength he lends to his people, yet beneath it all lives a tender ache that no crown can erase, no destiny can silence. He pauses beneath the moon, and the moonlight touches him like her fingertips once did. Every dune, every breeze, every star above him reminds him of the love he once held close, a love that did not vanish. Even when life carried her far from his arms, he still feels her presence in the rhythm of his breath, in the shadows of his thoughts, in the golden evenings where memory becomes a living flame. His heart has traveled through joy and loss, through triumph and grief, but it always circles back to her. Always her, only her. The gardens bloom in silence, their flowers bowing gently as if mourning with him. He touches a rose, its petals fragile like the truth he carries, that a man can have everything and still be searching for the one thing he cannot replace. He walks past the quiet corridors of the palace, his mind replaying the way she smiled, the softness of her voice, the way her eyes held universes he longed to explore. Her absence is not emptiness. It is a presence stronger than time, a light that no distance can extinguish. Sheikh Hamdan lifts his gaze to the night sky, hoping the heavens might return a sign, a whisper, a memory too real to ignore. But the sky remains still, holding her secrets gently, like it knows she is the pulse within his silence. And though the world sees him as a prince, a leader, a symbol of strength, he knows himself simply as a man, whose heart still belongs to one woman, a woman he carries like a hidden prayer, a woman whose love remains carved into the deepest chambers of his soul. Even when he rides through the desert, fast as the wind, fierce as the sun, her name follows him like a shadow of gold. He feels her in the gallop of his horses, in the heartbeat of the earth, in the songs the dunes whisper when night falls. The world can change, seasons can fade, oceans can shift their shape, but his heart remains loyal, unwavering, bound to the memory of one woman who touched him once and never truly let go. Sheikh Hamdan, beneath the stars, breathes her name into the silence, and the silence answers softly, as if it too remembers the love he still carries like a crown made of longing. Night settles gently over the palace, wrapping every tower and courtyard in a velvet hush that feels like a memory of her touch. Sheikh Hamdan stands by the window, watching the moon hover above the city he loves, yet his thoughts drift to the woman who once held his world together, with nothing more than her smile. He leans against the cool glass, feeling the weight of a longing that has followed him through every sunrise, every victory, every quiet moment in between. He wonders if she still looks at the same sky, if somewhere far beyond the dunes, she still carries a piece of him hidden beneath her heartbeat. The night wind moves softly across his robes, almost as if it tries to embrace him, in the way she once did. He closes his eyes, and her face appears in the darkness, clear, vivid, alive. The memory of her eyes warms him, more than any fire could. He remembers the melodies of her laughter, the gentle curve of her lips when she tried to hide her shyness, the way she used to say his name, like it was a secret treasured only by the two of them. These memories do not fade. They sharpen, deepen, growing stronger with each passing year. Love like his does not move on. It transforms, gains strength, becomes part of the soul itself. And though the world demands much of him, though duty pulls him in every direction, his heart remains steady, tethered to her like a star that refuses to leave the night sky. He walks into the courtyard, where lanterns glow with soft light, casting delicate reflections across the still pools of water. Every glowing flame feels like a promise, every reflected shimmer like a silent reminder that she once walked beside him here. He reaches out and lets his fingers graze the warm air, imagining her hand slipping into his, the way it always used to. The thought stirs something fragile within him, a hope he tried to bury, yet it rises again, unbroken. He whispers into the night, not expecting an answer, but needing to speak the truth that has been carved into him like scripture. His heart still belongs to her. It has always belonged to her, And even if she never returns, even if fate keeps their paths apart, he will carry her within him, like a flame that refuses to dim. The desert sleeps. The sky listens, and Sheikh Hamdan stands in the heart of the silence, holding on to the only thing that has never abandoned him, the memory of a woman whose love still breathes inside him, with every beat of his soul. The dawn begins to color the horizon, soft shades of rose and gold brushing the sky. Like the gentlest of blessings, Sheikh Hamdan watches the first light spill over the desert, and with it comes the familiar ache, the ache of remembering her, the ache of loving her still. He steps into the early morning quiet, the air cool, the world untouched, as though creation itself pauses to honor the tenderness he carries. Every sunrise brings him hope, but also the reminder that one more day has passed, without her beside him. He walks toward the stables, where his horses greet him, with soft breaths and gentle eyes. They sense what words cannot express, the truth of a heart that has never stopped calling her name. He strokes the mane of his favorite horse, feeling the warmth beneath his fingers, and whispers into the calm air, as though the creature might understand the longing that lives inside him. When he rides into the open desert, the sun climbs higher, casting golden light over endless dunes. The rhythm of the horse, the rush of wind against his face, pulls loose every memory he once tried to hold tightly. Her laughter dances around him. Her voice drifts across the sands, and for a brief moment, he feels her presence, as vividly as if she were riding beside him. He slows his pace, letting the silence deepen, listening not with his ears, but with the very core of his being. Love has a way of echoing, long after the moment has passed, and in the whisper of the desert wind, he hears her, again and again. He remembers the day she placed her hand over his heart and said she could feel its truth. He remembers the way she looked at him, not as a prince, not as a ruler, but as a man whose soul she understood, far better than he understood himself. How does one move on from a love that saw them so clearly? He never did. He never could. The desert stretches endlessly before him, yet all he sees is the space she once filled, the space that still belongs to her. His heart, despite its strength, remains tender when he thinks of her, softened by the memory of a love so deep that even time bows before it. He pauses atop a tall dune, overlooking the vast world around him, and the all-too-familiar truth settles over him like warm sunlight. Even if he rides across 1,000 deserts, climbs 1,000 mountains, touches 1,000 horizons, he will never reach a place where she does not live within him. His heart, steady yet hurting, beats the same words that have followed him through every season. It belongs to her. It always has. It always will. Evening drapes itself across Dubai, like a shimmering veil of gold and indigo, and Sheikh Hamdan stands at the balcony, watching the city lights awaken one by one. The world below him moves with purpose. People living, laughing, dreaming, yet inside him time stands still, frozen in the moment he last saw her eyes. He rests his hands upon the railing, feeling the cool metal beneath his palms, but it is the warmth of her memory that truly touches him. Her absence has become his constant companion, a shadow that follows him gently, through every room, every journey, every quiet breath he takes. He closes his eyes, and the palace around him fades. Suddenly, he is standing beside her again, in a place where love was simple, where her presence was enough to turn an ordinary moment into a treasure he still holds close. He remembers her voice, soft enough to calm a storm within him, strong enough to guide him through his darkest nights. He opens his eyes, but the balcony is empty, and the silence meets him with open arms. Still, he does not feel alone, for love that deep never truly leaves. It lives in the spaces between breaths, in the gentleness of memories that refuse to fade. He walks back inside, the halls echoing with quiet grace, and he pauses by a window, where moonlight spills across the floor, like liquid silver. He stares at the shimmering glow, imagining her walking through it, her presence floating toward him, like a dream he never wants to wake from. Every corner of the palace holds traces of her, not because she lived there, but because his heart carries her everywhere. He could travel to the ends of the world, stand before thousands of people, lead nations, write poems, build futures, Yet his heart would still turn toward the one direction where she once stood. He sits down beneath the massive chandeliers, their light gentle, their brilliance muted by his thoughts. He speaks quietly into the still air, as though she might somehow hear him. You were my silence, my peace, my compass in the storm. And though life has changed its course, my heart still waits for you, in places the world cannot see. The words fall softly, but the truth behind them is heavy, like the weight of 1,000 unspoken goodbyes. He lifts his gaze to the ceiling, where delicate patterns swirl like constellations, and wonders if the universe knew how deeply he would love her, and how deeply he still does. For a man can love again, but that first sacred love, the one that touched the soul, the one that taught the meaning of devotion, it remains like a diamond buried in the heart, eternal, unbreakable, immune to time and change. Sheikh Hamdan lowers his head, his voice no more than a whisper. My heart still belongs to you. The night listens. The stars linger. The world moves quietly around him. Yet the truth inside him remains unmoved. Steady, loyal, unchanging, as though carved in stone by the hands of fate. The night deepens, quiet and vast, as Sheikh Hamdan wanders through the long corridors of the palace that knows his secrets. Each step he takes echoes softly, like the heartbeat of a memory that refuses to fade. Tonight feels heavier than most nights, perhaps because silence always grows louder when the heart aches for someone who is no longer there. He pauses near the old wooden door of a small room he seldom enters. It is not a grand hall, not a place of meetings or royal decisions, just a quiet chamber where memories linger like incense. He pushes the door open, and the air inside greets him with the scent of roses dried long ago. He steps in slowly, his breath catching, as his eyes land on the few items he kept: a scarf she once wore, soft as her breath against his neck, a small book she used to read from, its pages still folded at her favorite lines, and a single note she wrote him, the ink slightly faded, but the words eternal. He picks up the note, his hands trembling, in a way they seldom do. Her handwriting flows across the page, like the echo of her voice, warm, gentle, alive. He reads the lines again, the same lines he has read 100 times. I believe in your heart. I believe in your goodness. If the world grows heavy, remember I am always with you, in the quiet places of your soul. He closes his eyes as emotion rises, fierce and overwhelming, like a wave that has been waiting to crash for far too long. He presses the note to his chest, feeling the tear that slips down his cheek, not of weakness, but of love too strong to contain. He whispers her name, barely audible, as though it might shatter if spoken too loudly. The room seems to listen, holding his pain, with a tenderness that almost hurts. He kneels before the small wooden chest, where he keeps the pieces of her memory. Every item is a story. Every story a wound that healed wrong. Every wound a reminder of the part of himself he lost when he lost her. Yet he does not wish to forget, for forgetting would mean letting go of the only thing that ever felt completely true. The moonlight slips through the window, falling across his shoulders, like a blessing. He lifts his gaze toward it, his heart speaking louder than any words could. She was the peace he searched for, the dream he prayed for, the woman who touched him in ways the world never understood. He stands slowly, holding her scarf for a moment longer, before laying it gently back in its place. He brushes his fingers across the book, the note, the memories, and whispers softly, as though she stands before him still. You changed me. You touched the deepest part of me, and that part still belongs to you. He turns to leave, but the room behind him remains alive, with her presence, an invisible warmth, a silent comfort, a gentle echo reminding him that love does not end just because distance has taken its place. As he closes the door, his heart whispers once more, steady and unwavering, she is still the one. The night sky stretches endlessly above him, as Sheikh Hamdan steps onto the quiet terrace, where he often escapes the weight of the world. It is a place where duty loosens its grip, where the crown feels lighter, and where his heart speaks louder than the titles he carries. He leans on the railing, letting the cool night breeze wash over his face like a soft reminder of the gentleness he once knew. Far below, the city glitters, with life and movement, but his world in this moment exists only in memory. In the distant echo of her smile, he wonders if she ever sensed how deeply he loved her, how fiercely his soul held on to her, even when fate forced them apart. Maybe she never knew that he whispered her name into the early dawn winds, praying her heart would hear him across the distance. He closes his eyes, and the sound of the breeze becomes the rhythm of her laughter. Her presence surrounds him, as though the night itself has taken her shape. He lets the memory embrace him, not fighting the ache, not resisting the longing, for love loses its purity when hidden behind walls. He opens his eyes again, gazing at the silver glow of the moon. It reminds him of the nights they spent talking about dreams the world would never know. She understood his silences, the thoughts he never shared with anyone else, the fears he kept buried beneath layers of responsibility. She read him like a poem, softly, slowly, lovingly. A soft sigh escapes him as he remembers the last time he held her hand. He had memorized its warmth, the way her fingers curled around his, with trust, with serenity, with a promise that felt like forever. Even though forever slipped away, he lowers his head, letting the memories wash over him. Like a tide he has stopped trying to resist. His heart still beats her name, steady and unbroken, as though she lives in the very pulse of his blood. He wonders if she ever felt it. That invisible thread, still tying them together. He wonders if she lies awake sometimes, feeling the weight of a love that does not fade, even when time demands it should. He lifts his eyes once more, his voice barely a whisper, carried softly by the warm desert wind. If you could hear my heart, you would know. It never let you go. The wind sweeps across his robes, gentle, almost comforting, as though the universe itself is trying to answer him. But he does not expect replies, only the quiet acceptance that some loves are meant to live, not in the world outside, but in the sanctuary of the soul. He turns to leave the terrace, but pauses for one last glance at the sky. The stars shimmer like scattered memories, and he realizes once again that no matter where life takes him, no matter what burdens he carries, one truth remains untouched. His heart still belongs, without question, without hesitation, to one woman. Long after the palace has fallen silent, and every servant has drifted into sleep, Sheikh Hamdan remains awake, wandering through the quiet realm of memories that never learned how to rest. He sits beside a dimly lit lantern, its golden glow trembling softly across the marble floor. The flame flickers, much like the heartbeat of the past he still carries within him. He watches the small flame dance, thinking of how her presence once filled the world with warmth, far brighter than any light before him now. He touches his chest gently, as though trying to soothe a wound no one else can see. The ache within him is familiar, almost comforting, a reminder that she was real, that her love was real, that the moments they shared were not just dreams, carved into the folds of time. He leans back against the pillar, closing his eyes, letting her memory wrap around him, like a soft desert shawl, woven from sighs and longing. He remembers the way she spoke, the softness of her words, the way she made him feel as though the entire world disappeared. When she looked into his eyes, there were nights when he believed destiny had chosen them, when the world seemed kind, when the moon shone brighter, because she stood beneath it. Those nights still live in him, unfaded, unwavering, like golden threads woven into the tapestry of who he has become. He opens his eyes slowly, gazing at the lantern flame again. Its glow reflects in his eyes, and he wonders if she would still recognize the man he is today, a man shaped by leadership, by responsibility, by loss, but most of all, by the love she left behind in the deepest chambers of his heart. He rises and walks to the great hallway, its arches towering like silent witnesses to his hidden sorrow. His footsteps echo softly, as though repeating a truth he has carried for years, that letting go does not always mean forgetting. Sometimes it means loving quietly. From a distance too wide to cross, he stops by a window, his reflection staring back at him, with eyes that hold entire storms. In the glass, he sees himself, a prince, a poet, a man, but behind every layer, he sees her shadow, her light, her tenderness, woven into the very fabric of his being. He lifts his hand, touching the cold surface, his voice barely a breath. I would choose you in every lifetime. The words fall softly, but they strike the walls of his soul, like a truth too pure to hide. He closes his eyes, letting silence answer him, letting the night hold him with the gentleness she once gave. Behind closed eyelids, he sees her smile, that quiet, luminous smile that once made him believe that love could be forever. And even now, despite the distance, despite the fate that pulled them apart, that belief still lives in him, soft and unbroken. The soft glow of early dawn begins to creep across the palace walls, painting them with colors that feel almost too gentle for the weight inside his heart. Sheikh Hamdan stands alone in the quiet majlis, bathed in the pale hush of morning light, as though the world itself is trying to soothe him before the day begins. He runs his fingers across the fabric of the cushions beside him, the same place where he once imagined she might sit, her presence turning silence into something holy. He can almost feel the warmth of where she should have been, the echo of her breath, the softness of her gaze, resting on him like a blessing he never deserved but always cherished. He turns toward the window, watching the first rays of sun lift themselves over the horizon. The golden light reminds him of the gentle hope she carried in her eyes, the way she saw goodness in everything, even in the parts of him he thought were too broken to love. She believed in him before he learned how to believe in himself, and that faith became the anchor he still holds on to, even now, even without her. He places his hand over his heart, feeling the familiar ache unfurl once more, not sharply, but with a deep tenderness that has grown with time. Some people call it longing. He calls it devotion. For every beat of his heart still whispers her name with the same reverence. He once spoke it aloud. He steps outside into the garden, the soft sand cool beneath his feet, the scent of blooming jasmine rising gently around him. This garden was once his sanctuary, a place where he wrote poems, in the whispers of early morning, poems he never shared, poems he wrote only for her. The flowers sway in the breeze now, as if bowing to her memory, as if welcoming the presence he carries within him. He kneels beside the fountain, its water shimmering like liquid gold. Beneath the morning sun, the gentle sound of the flowing stream fills the quiet with a melody that reminds him of her laughter. Soft, innocent, capable of healing wounds he never admitted to anyone. He dips his fingers into the cool water, watching the ripples stretch outward, just as her love once reached every hidden corner of his soul. He closes his eyes and allows himself the fragile luxury of imagining her beside him again, her hand brushing his, her voice whispering the promises they once believed would last forever. His breath trembles as he admits silently to himself that no matter how many years pass, no one else has ever touched him the way she did. In the deepest, quietest parts of his being, he stands slowly, lifting his head toward the sky, now bright with the warmth of sunrise. The world is awake, alive, ready for the responsibilities that await him. Yet within him still lives a truth untouched by time. The place where she once stood is still hers, unchanged, unclaimed by anyone else. He takes a long, steady breath, letting the sun warm his face, as though it carries her touch. And in that moment, in the soft embrace of morning light, Sheikh Hamdan walked through the moonlit courtyard, his footsteps gentle as if afraid to disturb the memories sleeping on the stones. Every corner of the palace seemed to whisper her name, as though even the walls remembered the softness of her laughter and the warmth of her presence. He paused beside the old fountain, where she once placed her hand upon his, where she told him that love can live quietly, in the spaces between silence and breath. Tonight he touched the same marble edge, and in the quiet ripples of the water, he saw her face again. Bright, beloved, unforgettable. The desert wind rose from the far dunes, carrying grains of sand, like tiny golden prayers, scattering them around him, as though the earth itself wished to wrap him in comfort. But even the wind could not soothe the ache that lived behind his smile, the ache that had grown roots deep in the chambers of his heart. His guards watched him from afar, wondering why their prince looked up at the sky as though expecting a message hidden in the stars. But he was not searching for signs. He was searching for her, for the only woman who ever knew the secret language of his soul. He remembered the night she placed her head on his shoulder and whispered that she wished the world could stop turning just for the two of them. That time would freeze, so they could stay in that quiet moment forever. And sometimes, when the world feels too loud, he closes his eyes and returns to that memory, letting it hold him the way she once held him. Tonight, his heart wandered far beyond the palace, far beyond the city lights, to the places where her footsteps had marked the sand, the dunes where she danced with the wind, the shores where she traced his initials on the skin of the sea, the gardens where she fed the horses with her gentle smile. Even now, when the palace celebrates, when the world calls his name, his heart beats in a rhythm she once created, a melody still shaped by her laughter, her tears, her love. He walked past the lanterns that lit the royal hallways, their glow reflecting softly against his thoughtful eyes. Every light reminded him of her warm presence. Every shadow reminded him of her absence. He lived between the two, the light she left, the darkness that followed. And though many imagine that his heart belongs to the world, that a prince's love should be wide and generous, he knows the truth, that only the night listens to. His heart still belongs to that one woman, the one whose name he whispers into his pillow when the world is asleep, the woman whose love still protects him, like a silent guardian whose memory breathes through every choice he makes, whose presence echoes in every prayer he offers. He remembered the promise she once made that even if she walked away, her soul would never leave him. He didn't understand it then. He understands it now, because even though she is gone, she is everywhere. She is in every sunrise that paints the desert in gold,